My talk is a little bit, I realize because I have to get through all the like updates and like rule changes and stuff, it goes on a little bit. It goes on, yes. Awesome. Yeah. All right, we're gonna start back in a couple minutes here. And they fixed the microphone, which made it easier. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do. Yeah, I was like, do I? And I don't want to be right. All right. And we are a little bit ahead of schedule, which is very exciting. We can get to the animals sooner, hopefully. So welcome back, everyone. I'm really excited to introduce Dr. Maggie Baldwin, who is absolutely essential to our program and who has provided tons and tons of guidance to all of our strategic planning efforts, as well as the various cases that we address and all the different initiatives that I'll be talking about in my next talk. So Dr. Maggie Baldwin has been with the CDA since January 2017, working on livestock emergency management, disease case management, and public outreach. She has held many roles at CDA, most recently being named State Veterinarian and Director of the Animal Health Division in May 2021. Prior to joining CDA, Maggie worked for USDA as a supervisory public health veterinarian with the FSIS, and then as a veterinarian medical officer with APHIS during 2014 to 2016 high path outbreak. Maggie is originally from West Central Minnesota. She received her bachelor's degree and Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degrees from the University of Minnesota. Welcome, Dr. Baldwin. It's so exciting to have you here, so thanks so much for being here today.
Excellent. Okay, we'll see if I can be the fourth person to struggle with this microphone today. Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful. Is this volume okay? Good? Okay, not too loud? Okay. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and have an opportunity to meet you guys over the next couple of days here. It's really exciting to be here with the new BAP team, with our commissioner, deputy commissioner. It was great to see Governor Polis this morning as well. And, you know, when Rebecca and I were talking about what do I have to say here, we thought maybe an introductory, talk on what do we do at the state veterinarian's office might be helpful, because I think you all are very familiar with the BAP program. So I'm really not going to talk a lot about the BAP program because that's what you're here to learn about for the next 2 days. But I thought it might be helpful if you guys know what we do in general in the state veterinarian's office and what our division does. Who here feels like they know what the state veterinarian's office does? Okay, the people that work for us don't count. But there's a misconception that we oversee the veterinarians in the state, or we have other duties. We're not part of DORA. We don't oversee the State Board of Veterinary Medicine. We're under the Department of Agriculture. And so what is our job? And I summarize our job very, very briefly. Our job is to protect the health and welfare of Colorado's herd. And I've heard a small but mighty team several times this morning, and here in the Animal Health Division, we have a very small but mighty team that accomplishes this goal every day. We actually are the smallest of all of the divisions in the Department of Agriculture, and I think I do have a picture here of some of our people. The other thing I've realized is we're actually terrible about taking pictures of all the great work that we do and taking pictures of our team. But we did have an opportunity to take a picture earlier, actually in December of 2022. We got together for a high-path avian influenza banquet with our team. So our team is, like I said, very small. We've got 20 people on our division, and that has grown by 3 since I came on board. And that is, we have a new ag emergency coordinator on board. He'll be here tomorrow doing a session with Ann and Janae and some folks talking about emergency response and how can we coordinate on those pieces. And then of course we've grown our BAP team. So all of us together are 20 people, and it's a small but mighty team accomplishing all of the work in the Animal Health Division. What are those programs? What do we do? So livestock and animal disease control is probably the biggest one. We do a lot on livestock disease case management, working on diseases like tuberculosis and brucellosis and trichomoniasis. So reportable diseases in livestock, and then traceability. How do we find where animals, diseased animals have been? How do we know where they went? How do we control the disease with diagnostic test requirements and quarantines and hold orders and all of those things? Animal disease traceability is a really, really critical part of the work that we do, because there's a lot of livestock in Colorado, and there's a lot of livestock moving through and to and from Colorado every day. And when we think of all the different commodities and all the different species we work with, knowing what their movements are is pretty important to disease control. Another really big piece, and has become even bigger over the last year, is our emergency preparedness and response. And there's some folks here in the room that we've worked with on our emergency preparedness and response programs for many years on the all hazard side, so fires, floods, tornadoes, blizzards, all of those things. And we do serve as Emergency Support Function 11 at the State Emergency Operations Center. For the last 5 years, I've been filling that role part of the time. We've had a few other folks in the division that have been filling that role part of the time, and working with our county folks, our county animal control folks, county ESF 11 folks on animal sheltering and meeting those needs. And Anne is here, and you guys will be talking about that tomorrow, and how do we coordinate that? How do we coordinate that with this program specifically, because they're meeting a lot of the same needs. So we do that. The other side of emergency preparedness and response, and I'm sure all of you have heard about the avian influenza outbreak, is our foreign animal disease response, foreign animal disease preparedness and response. So here in Colorado, we've had, for the last year, we've been working on highly pathogenic avian influenza response. And Dr. Niemiec mentioned in my introductory remarks, I also did this back in 2014, 2016, and people joke that it followed me here. It wasn't me, I promise. I'm not the one that brought it here. But we have been really, that's really what our division has been doing for the last year, is high path avian influenza. If you guys have not been keeping up with the news on what that outbreak has looked like, nationwide, it's impacted 47 states. More than 58 million domestic birds have been impacted. Here in Colorado, as far as total inventory, we are the third state in the nation that has been impacted, with about 6.3 million domestic poultry affected in our state, and that has impacted more than 90% of our table egg laying industry in Colorado. So if you're wondering why egg prices are so high, and why you can't find eggs, that's why. It's avian influenza. And we're actually just at the start of what we anticipate to be the next upswing in disease detections as we see migratory birds start coming back through the state in about 3 to 4 weeks. So we have a lot of these other things we're supposed to be doing, but we're gonna be working on high path AI for a while. Of course, Bureau of Animal Protection is what you're here for, right? This is what you'll be hearing about for the next 2 days, so I'm not going to go a lot into that. We have a few smaller programs that are managed by one person in our division, our Ag Wildlife Liaison, and that's our aquaculture program. We do have farmed fish in the state. We also have an alternative livestock program, so that's our captive cervids, and we work on chronic wasting disease control programs, and then our predator control program. We also, in the department, we have the Animal Health Laboratory. So that is not in our division anymore. It used to be, but the Animal Health Lab is now in the Lab Services division. So that's a very brief snapshot of what we do, the different programs that we do. We do have field veterinarians. So our state, we do this a little bit differently than some states. Our state is actually broken up by state and federal veterinarians that are covering the state. We actually have a new veterinarian that's covering the southeast region now. I just haven't updated this slide. But 2 of them are CDA veterinarians. So Dr. Pete Rolfe is on the western slope, and Dr. Ken Newens is in the Front Range, and those 2 have and do provide support to the BAP program, and as well as our animal health technicians that serve in the field. As far as regulatory authority, we are Title 35. Article 50 is primarily a lot of our regulatory authority, but several other articles play into many of these rules. And so we have our depredation, public livestock market, veterinary inspection. So we write the rules on what veterinarians are required to do when they're inspecting livestock at public auctions. Scrapie in sheep and goats, alternative livestock, like I mentioned, that's chronic wasting disease. Of course, Bureau of Animal Protection, which Rebecca will be going into. Livestock disease control is kind of our primary rule that drives a lot of the work that we do in our division. We have a live bird market rule. No, we don't have live bird markets in the state. If you know of live bird markets in the state, let us know, because sometimes they're operating undercover and we don't know that. But that's really about preventing the spread of disease, specifically highly pathogenic avian influenza. And then aquaculture. Like I said, we've got farmed fish. So livestock disease control rule, our primary rule that runs a lot of the work that we do in our division, that sets our standards for health certificates, so certificates of veterinary inspection. Import rules, we have import rules for all the animals coming into our state. How do we maintain a healthy herd in Colorado is making sure we're not bringing diseased animals in. So we have testing requirements and health requirements that they have to meet. We've got some livestock specific things that are commuter agreements, movements that move back and forth across state lines, approved feedlot program, and then of course the diseases I've already talked about, tuberculosis, brucellosis, trichomoniasis. On the equine side, equine infectious anemia is a big one, and I'm sure something that you guys are very aware of, at least the folks that do equine stuff here. That's our Coggins testing that we do in the state. Equine viral arteritis is another one. And we've got a swine program, swine health program. We've got a lot on the swine side, including foreign animal diseases lingering that we're preparing for. And then a big one that's important to know about is reportable diseases. So what is reportable to us in our office, and what are the reporting requirements for any of those diseases? If we're talking about things like rabies or plague or tularemia, what are those reporting requirements? If you guys haven't seen it, this is available on our website as a downloadable PDF, and you can see what our reportable diseases are and how to identify them. I don't know if we have any veterinarians in the audience. I don't think we probably do. We've got, well, of course, Dr. Deal is here. But this is important, if you guys are working with veterinarians. One other thing I wanted to just really briefly mention is our wildly important goals, and this is one thing that BAP is really critical to. So wildly important goals, we just did a presentation last week on this, and one of the big ones we have is advancing animal health and welfare in the state. So how do we do that, and what are the sub-goals? We've got a lot. This is really tiny text, and you guys don't have to read this. But just so you know, a lot of this is focused on education and outreach, and that's what we're doing here today, right? We're providing education and outreach to law enforcement, to BAP agents, and so the BAP program is a really critical part of achieving this wildly important goal and advancing animal health and welfare in the state. So what's on the horizon for our division? More highly pathogenic avian influenza is likely what's on the horizon. But we do have a lot of things. We've got next week we've got a team meeting, and we're going to be doing some strategy and planning and goal setting with our team, and see if we can try to meet some of the goals we had set for last year. And most of the goals we had set for last year were all set aside for our avian influenza response. So we'll see if we can start working on a few things. One that's really important, and probably something you all are very well aware of, is One Health. Who's aware of the One Health concept, right? Which is really important for the work that we're doing. So animal health and human health and environmental health, and how do we tie all those pieces together? And BAP is already doing that as well. So really exciting, working to incorporate the One Health concept a little bit more into the work that we're doing in our division. We're also, of course, continuing to work on animal disease traceability and foreign animal disease preparedness and response, and a lot of public outreach. We're hoping we can get more done this year. We'll see what happens with the high path avian influenza outbreak, if that allows us to. And then here is my contact information. If you guys need to reach me for anything, please feel free to reach out. I'm always available, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any about our division. Not seeing any. Thank you, guys. See if I can put that back in without it falling.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baldwin. Really appreciate that summary of all of the work that you and your team does, and we're so grateful for all of the support and guidance you provide to the BAP program as well. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is transition to a talk specifically on the Bureau of Animal Protection and some of our new initiatives and program updates that I'm gonna give as soon as I can figure out how to get out of this PowerPoint. All right.